Good afternoon. There we go. Hello. Today we're going to talk about therapeutic uses, show you some cases for using copper alloy horseshoes. Copper in its pure form obviously is not suited for our horseshoeing industry. We use copper to make some fancy shoes. I've put them on draft horses for weddings. Usually by the time the wedding party is done, the copper, and I'm using 3/4 inches, nearly worn all the way through. It's just not conducive to what we need to do. So it needs to be alloyed with other metals, which are proprietary. And these copper alloy companies usually don't let you know what that is. It gives it its strength, its wear resistance, its hardness, its antimicrobial abilities, which we're going to focus on today, its thermal conductivity and corrosion resistance, making it ideal for therapeutic uses. So this is not necessarily a shoe that we would be using every day in your practice because they run, $30-35 a pair. What it is something that you would want to use more for therapeutic reasons. There's a pair of hind pattern shoes going around so you can see. Now, its properties are becoming increasingly important in the prevention of infections. More and more research is done, and there's an incredible amount of research being done on copper alloy. The U.S. EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, has acknowledged and tested over 350 different variations of copper alloys, and they have 6 categories they set up, and you can go into one of those categories, and if you make one of those categories, you're EPA approved. Copper is the only metal whose antimicrobial properties have been certified by the EPA as killing bacteria. So in order for a copper alloy company to make any claims about killing bacteria on their labels or when they say it, they have to be tested in the USA and undergone EPA testing, rigorous testing, and get certified by the EPA. To date, the only company that's ever done that is Kawell copper alloy horseshoes. So they're the only one that are EPA proven and tested that they actually work. Now, how does copper kill bacteria? It does it in 2 ways. The first way is by direct contact. They call that touch surface. So if you're doing any research in the medical industry or in this industry, look up touch surface copper alloy killing. And what it'll do is it kills 99.9% of bacteria on contact, and the worst of bacteria it kills. All right. So that means anything that comes in contact with our shoe, it's going to be killing bacteria. So the foot surface of the shoe is going to look like this. It's going to be darkened. It's going to be greenish black. It's the copper alloy killing the bacteria on contact. All right. I clean them up with a wire brush and I re-put them on. Do you have to put them on clean them up with a wire brush? No, you can just put them right back on and they'll do it. I just like to see shiny metal there when I put it back on because for me, I think it works better. But that's what that'll look like. The second process that most farriers, I know you guys know about in some other shoeing, but gets overlooked, is a galvanic reaction between 2 dissimilar metals. So when you drive your steel nails into the aluminum shoe and you take the aluminum shoe off and you see that pitting that occurs in the aluminum shoe, it's breaking down, it's sometimes crumbly, that is aluminum oxide that's created between the steel and aluminum. Now, there's a lot of research saying some of that, even though that's the base of our pit sticks, it's in most pit sticks, underarm deodorant for the women, we don't know what it does to a horse's foot yet. There's been no testing on that because some people have major issues with aluminum oxide who have allergen issues. But when you take a steel nail and put it into a copper alloy horseshoe, now what is produced is copper salts. So now copper salts are leaching out between the nail contact and leaching out further on the foot, and it'll migrate in the foot. It'll go down a little ways into the sole and migrate across the sole a ways. This is the reaction we want with these. So this is what it'll look like. There'll be a ring around the shoe and nails and everything that'll leach in on the foot. And so that's killing bacteria. So obviously you can see the advantages of it in this picture is if you had some white line issues, you could very easily help with having copper salts being infiltrated in the foot every day. So here is Stella. Stella is a case study done at Meredith Manor using an insert. So an insert is just an old piece of copper alloy horseshoe, and it can be put into a steel shoe, brazed in, welded in the exact same way, or put into a copper alloy horseshoe. It's no different in brazing and welding than if you were putting a steel piece in there. Here's their shoe on 8-9. That's what it looks like at 8-9. You can see the issues in the foot. We got some central sulcus dermatological issues. Well, we got some hoof issues too, but that's not, we're talking about the frog issues that are going on with this horse. And it's been a habitual horse with this thrush and central sulcus issues going on. So they put the shoe on the foot. Now notice their bar isn't touching each other into a nice point or anything. You don't really need to do that because it's going to be leaching out on the foot. If you want it to look real pretty, you could. Here's the shoe job just so you can see a lateral view of the feet. They've got some good support on it. Here is 920, just in a shoeing cycle, how the frog is and the central sulcus is already cleaned up. Just in one shoeing. Shoe goes back on 920. Frog on 123. John just sent this to me. They just went, just had the horse done. You can see the issues are fairly all resolved in the horse as far as its habitual thrush issues. Here is the shoe, a new shoe with a frog plate. You're using them up, aren't you? New frog plate and stuff going on. Well, that's whose name's on that? Oh, it's still my shoe. Now here is Tabasco. So that was using a copper alloy frog plate. Anytime that you have a thrushy frogs and stuff can be a problem. Most of the concerns we have as farriers, as owners, aren't compliant with going out there and taking care of the foot every day. Usually that lasts about 2 days of tending to it and putting stuff on, and then when you show up 4, 5, 6 weeks later, it looks like crap all over again, and it's because they say they've been going out there, but they really haven't been going out there. So that's where the advantage of a frog plate could certainly help. The other is central sulcus dermatological issues. They are so hard to combat. People treat them like thrush, but using cleaning them out can be real hard. Running gauze in between them. I found that putting a frog plate, or it depends on the frog, a straight piece across the back so it's leaching in, has done more to help those than most anything else I've ever done. It seems to be working a whole lot better. Now Tabasco here, he had a little bit of an issue where he started to delaminate or spread out at the white line. So they had to resect that area up and debride it on out and clean it all up and get it back to good hoof, because we'll get some good growth. You can see the bottom of the foot. Put the shoes on. Now these are just straight copper alloy horseshoes, fronts that went on. There's the shoe job. Now you can certainly cover this in the field if we had this as a steel shoe or whatever, or even a copper alloy shoe. You can go and patch this if you want. That's the neat thing about this is the copper, because it has, you can see there's nothing between that hoof and the copper shoe. It's going to be leaching through all those nails contacts and through the shoe, and it's going to leach up into this area, and it's going to keep bacteria from settling in this area, so the hoof will grow out in a much better way. Here's the hoof shoeing cycle later, 10-10. So 9-4, 10-10. The hoof has come on down and attached fairly well. The shoe goes back on in 10-10. So that's the job on 10-10, what it looks like. So 9-4 to 10-10, we got good growth growing down. You could do this without a copper alloy shoe. We've done it before, but it requires getting in and making sure it stays cleaned on out. The copper alloy shoe just makes it a whole lot better. Here is Keeper. One of the things that I like to use copper alloy horseshoes is to transition my laminate courses. Most of you know if I have any acute or sinker case, they're going to be in a positive pressure heart bar shoe applied to the radiographs I take. Then from there, or if the horse is a real chronic horse and it's going to need just a pair of shoes on to get some vertical height, their white lines are stretched, they're soft, and usually we're dealing with a lot of seedy areas often. So this animal here, we just transitioned out of the heart bar shoes. It's recovering from retracted soles or sucked up soles. It's in a mess of a wet environment, and it's got the seedy areas, and you can see some of the stretched white line that have been bringing back. So this is a candidate that I love to put into the Kawell copper alloy horseshoes. So there is being shod. You can sort of see the remnants left of its laminitis. Still dressing back the toe. Put on the shoe. You'll always notice my name is on my shoes. Note how little wear is on the shoe after 6 weeks. There's hardly any wear. Here's 13 weeks just to show you the difference of the enrollment. This is foot surface, ground surface, obviously. Here's that galvanic reaction I take advantage of, which is why it's so important. Because the white line is so soft and stretched or seedy, it's great to have that leaching in the foot. So when you're trimming these feet, you're not going to trim out, well, if you do, you could be in trouble. You trim out that copper salts. It probably goes down sometimes as much as 1/8 of an inch to, almost 5 millimeters down into the sole. So the sole absorbs that. Sometimes it's just on the surface and a couple millimeters, depending on the hardness of the foot. So it's leaching all around, and so it's doing what I want it to do. It's protecting that white line area, leaving copper salts there. It's in a bad environment. There's no way once I put a shoe on this horse, because I needed a shoe because we needed some vertical height, that if I chose a standard steel shoe, the owner would have to be like pouring tons of liquid something underneath the shoes to try to get it in there, and how successful would that be? So it just makes sense for me to use them in these situations. There's a difference of, just one shoeing. Difference of 4 weeks. I usually do my laminitis cases every 4 to 5 weeks at the most.